Hi there, this is an introduction to the new Fresair Mini Reservoir. The new Fresair Mini Reservoir was created in response to van conversion folks who didn't want to install our regular 18-litre tank and essentially have two large freshwater tanks in their vehicle. They were asking whether they could connect the Fresair unit directly to their main freshwater tank, which we didn't recommend. But we have created this new Mini Reservoir, the black unit here, which essentially just allows you to tee off your main freshwater tank very simply. It only has two connections to your tank. The one here is a gravity feed. The very first thing to tee off the tank is to the Fresair unit. This is a 1/2-inch barb. That's the first connection. Then the second connection is from the air vent from the Mini up to the main air vent for the tank. In this way, the Fresair Mini Reservoir uses water from the main freshwater tank, also utilizes the air vent, and allows a very clean install between the two. In this basic setup, we're just demonstrating how the unit is connected. Obviously this will change from tank to tank, different setups, but essentially this is a typical 10-gallon tank. This would normally be a fill, go to a fill tray so you could fill the tank up. This would be the main feed for the water supply to the van. There'd typically be a filter, then a pump, and then go into your pressurized water system. It's important to note that we tee off the Fresair unit before any of that. We don't want any pressure in the line. We simply want this to be a gravity fill. This, as shown here, is an air vent, and that would normally be a drain. So it's a very simple setup. It is just a test. We haven't got this actually installed in a van. We're just showing how the connections work and how to think about using the Mini Reservoir. So some of the things to consider is that this is a float sensor, which is inside the Mini Reservoir. As soon as water level drops below a certain level, this will trigger and it will tell the Fresair unit there's no more water. And it will turn off the pumps and it will stop using the water from the reservoir. Now the water level within the Fresair will try to match up with the water level in the tank. So one thing to bear in mind is that if you move the Fresair unit to a different position relative to the tank, then when the main tank drains, this float sensor will trigger at a different time. If you want the Fresair to use less water and leave more water in the main tank, you just mount it higher relative to the tank. As you can see here, we just have it mounted at the same level. As soon as the main tank water drops down below this water sensor, this will turn off the Fresair unit and you'll still have some water remaining in your tank, so we don't just run your tank dry. The actual mechanics of the reservoir itself are quite simple. We have the injection pump and the injection line. So this is where water gets pumped up to the Fresair unit. And then we have a return line. This is where water returns back to the reservoir after being pumped through the Fresair unit. This water is double filtered at the Fresair unit to prevent as much contaminants or debris as possible from coming back to the tank. And then for any trapped air bubbles, the air vent will allow this to remain unpressurized. This is the harness coming from the Fresair unit, which contains the connection to the pump and the connection to the float sensor. And then this line goes to your electrical panel and to a 12-volt power source. One thing to bear in mind, this is a gravity feed. You don't have to have the Fresair unit mounted directly onto the reservoir. Just as long as this is in a relative vertical position somewhere within your build, easily accessible, you could actually tee off from your main reservoir and put the Mini Reservoir somewhere else, whatever's convenient to you. This again is a very basic, simple example of how to set it up. Let's turn it on and give it a go. As you can hear, the injection pump is now pumping water up to the Fresair unit, saturating the pads within the unit. then being filtered before the water is being pumped back into the mini reservoir. As the water is circulated, the gravity feed will fill the reservoir again, and the process continues and cycles until all the water has been used up to the level of the float sensor. And that's it, the new Fresair Mini Reservoir. Thanks for watching.